you going? It's quite late here in Sydney at the moment, but I wanted to shoot you this quick live because I've got some exciting news to share, which I'll share at the end of the video. And also, if you've been following me over the last week or so, I started doing a series for you on your money mindset and the 6 different types of money. And we covered the first 4 types of money. So we looked at savings, we looked at debt, we looked at income, and we looked at income goals. And then unfortunately I had to take a little bit of a break because some personal stuff came up that I had to deal with, which I won't go into just yet. I may do a separate video on how to deal with things when shit hits the fan. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about expenses, which is the 5th type of money that you really want to get on top of if you want to have a great relationship with money and a great money mindset. So, okay, talking about expenses. So generally there's 2 broad types of expenses. So you've got money that you spend on necessities. So these will be things like, you know, your bills, your housing, utilities, clothes, food, that type of thing. So just the essentials in life. And then you've also got another level of expenses, which is more, I guess, the social level. So you can call these luxuries, but you know, luxuries can sort of imply things that are really out there, but this is anything that goes beyond the necessities. So, you know, your mobile phone, maybe anything that goes beyond basic clothing. So designer clothing, holidays, all that type of stuff. So all the other type of expenditure that you wouldn't technically say is essential or necessary to stay alive. What's interesting about this type of expenditure though, so on the social level, is that generally what we spend on is more a reflection of how we want to fit into society. So it can be a bit of like a status symbol as well. So what's interesting about expenses is that they do tend to go up as your income goes up. So, you know, if you have had, whether it's jobs or businesses, I want you to notice for yourself. So ask yourself, have you spent more as your income has gone up? You know, for a lot of people, it often means moving into a better house or getting a better car, buying nicer clothes, going on holidays if you didn't do that before. So it's just about being able to, I guess, afford some of the finer things in life. And what I want you to do though is to actually notice your pattern with expenses. So, you know, spending money in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but it's really what's important is it's about the money that you keep. And so this heavily relates to the video that I did on income. So you've really got to balance out the 2, because if your expenses exceed your income, then you know you've got a problem. And so what I want to touch on is what particular issues come up around expenses. So the first one, as I just touched on, is overspending. So this is where your income comes in, whether that's a salary. So say you've got a monthly salary of, I don't know, $5,000, and for whatever reason, the sum of your expenses comes to $6,000. So this would mean you've got a deficit of $1,000 every month. And so this comes from a habit of overspending because you're spending more than what you're able to afford. And so this then also results in negatively affecting some other types of money which we've talked about. So the first one being savings. So if you're overspending, then there's no money left to save. And then debt. So usually that deficit gets funded by some other form of money that isn't actually yours, like a credit card. And that can sort of trigger off a different negative cycle. So you've got overspending. So then another type of issue that you can have around expenses is guilt. So this is a really interesting one. So it particularly relates to guilt around spending on luxuries. And interestingly, this tends to affect people once they reach a level of success. So, you know, I used to think of money issues in terms of, okay, people might struggle to get promoted and make more money, or, you know, you've got overspending, as we just talked about. But this is one that sort of just popped up because I started having business owners and entrepreneurs tell me that they actually suffered a lot of guilt around money, and this is after they made money. So, you know, what tends to happen here is that people break through that money barrier where, you know, they may have not had a lot of money previously, but they've managed to break through that and conquer that part of their mindset. But what still comes and bites them in the backside is guilt around actually spending that money. So we'll come back and talk about that in a minute. And then the third way that I see people have a negative relationship with money around expenses is that some people are really frugal. So, you know, everyone knows at least one tight ass, I think. And, you know, we can have a bit of a laugh about it, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be responsible with your money. Like, I think that's really important, and it's important to track it and understand what you're spending on. But some people take it a bit further, and there's sort of this distinction between being responsible versus, well, almost being embarrassing. So, you know, some people will make a big scene in public over the cost of something that probably isn't a big deal in most people's eyes. So what I want to touch on is relating to these three types of negative experiences with expenses is the emotional connection that actually causes these things to happen. So, you know, when it comes to overspending, so usually this comes about because people are trying in different ways to break out of a poverty cycle. So if you grew up with not necessarily having a lot of money in your family, and then, you know, you finally start earning money of your own and you sort of have this sense of freedom, then often buying things, so accumulating material possessions, you know, spending money on like lavish holidays, nice cars, that type of thing, it can make you feel good, like make you feel like you're claiming back some of your power. Because growing up in poverty makes people feel really disempowered. And so there can be this feeling of, you know, well, I deserve it, so I'm going to treat myself. And now the danger here is not that you shouldn't be looking after yourself, but it's that the net result of that cycle actually leaves you feeling quite disempowered. Because when you end up with no savings or you end up with debt, then it actually makes you feel like crap. And so the whole thing you were trying to achieve in sort of trying to get that freedom gets taken back away from you because you end up feeling really negative about money anyway. And okay, so then we have guilt. And so again, this comes up a lot because of people growing up in poverty. And so the guilt comes about because if you grew up in a middle class family or a family that was more poor than that, then usually there was only ever enough money for necessities or things that were deemed, you know, at the very low level of sort of that social group of expenses. So what happens is spending on anything outside of those groups starts to trigger fear and panic, because that's what it would have done in your family when you were younger, because there wouldn't have been money for that. And so what happens is when you start to spend on those lavish things, it makes you feel like you're not fitting into your tribe anymore. And, you know, we're primed to want to fit in with our tribe, which is usually our family. And so that's why it starts to trigger that sense of fear and panic. And also for a lot of people, you may not realize it, but it makes you feel like you are being disrespectful or disempowering your parents. It's almost like offensive that in some way, because you're now able to spend big, it sort of hurts this past version of them that couldn't afford those things. And you know, some people also grow up being told that wealthy people are greedy, and so spending money on fancy things might make you feel like you're one of those greedy people. So then we have, stinginess, which I talked about. So again, really this is primed from growing up, usually in extreme poverty. Like you might have really seen your parents suffer with money, particularly where, you know, some people were used to like using food stamps, or in Australia, you know, we sort of have shopper dockets and things like that, and maybe growing up wearing secondhand clothes. And so often being stingy is a way of continuing these behaviours. So you may not need the food stamps anymore, but you're watching your money so closely that, you know, when something seems like it's even slightly overpriced, it just triggers that panic within you. And that's often what drives stinginess. And, you know, then of course that you do have the exceptions where I think some people just have some character flaws and they're not nice people to be around, and so that can drive stinginess too. But interestingly, you know, continuing the behavior of being stingy, I think a lot of people don't realize that it does actually end up costing you, but usually in the way of time. So what I mean by that is that some people will, you know, drive for an hour to go and get something at a discount, not realizing that they're not only spending on fuel to get there, or, you know, however it is you travel there, but it's your time and just that wasted emotional investment just to sometimes save a couple of dollars. And so this can come and bite you in the backside as well if you don't get on top of it. So look, expenses, the good news here is that it's one of the areas where you can take really quick practical action. So if overspending is a problem for you, then, you know, simply by starting to track your expenses and doing an end of month review is a great way to understand where your money goes. And I know this probably sounds like something you don't really want to do, but you know, I will do more videos on this stuff, and you can always PM me for help as well. And then around the negative emotions, you know, the first thing I want you to do is to actually take note of when you do spend money, where some of these negative emotions do pop up. So what is it that is triggering for you? And you know, once you can identify those, then we can start to work with that and start to neutralize the source of those negative emotions. But really the best thing you can do, and the exciting news that I've got to share with you today, is that to get on top of your money, I can actually offer you some help, and very soon actually. So I've got some free training that I'll be putting on with another awesome money coach. So her name is Izdihar Jamil, and she's based in California, and she's absolutely awesome. And we've decided to help you leave 2018 with an absolute bang and go into 2019 feeling super prepared, super excited, and really empowered about your money. And so Izdihar and I have decided to put on a live training for you, and it's actually going to take place, so for my Australian friends, it's going to take place on Saturday at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so Sydney time, and for anyone in the US, it's going to be 1 p.m. Pacific time, which will be on Friday. So just take note of the time zone difference. But to get access to it, I've got to give you access. So if it's something you'd like to attend, and we'd love to have you there, then drop me a yes below this video. So it's actually going to take place in a secret group, so you won't see it broadcast live here, but I can give you instant access. And so what we're going to leave you with is we're going to give you this awesome free training, which will then lead into us working with you on a blueprint where we'll help you go into 2019 really planning out you know, how you're going to earn your income, how you can increase your income, if you have a business, how you can get more leads, and really going in with all of that confidence and empowerment around your money for the new year. And also if you celebrate Christmas, then heading into the Christmas season, just giving you that extra bit of confidence around if overspending, for example, is a problem, then how to go in feeling like you're really going to you know, manage the problem this year, and how you can start to take control of your finances. So we'd love for you to join us. We're going to teach you all about how to have a positive money mindset. So again, if you want to attend that free training with myself and with Izdihar Jamil, then just drop me a yes below the video, and I will PM you and give you access to the secret group. So thanks for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video. Bye for now.